I want to start off by doing the reading from the language of letting go for today. And like the higher power always takes care of it, today's reading fits right into what I'm going to talk about today. Isn't that amazing how that happens? I love it. Okay. March 8th, surrender. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. Surrendering it to a power greater than ourselves is how we become empowered. We become empowered in a new, better, more effective way than we believe possible. Doors open, windows open, possibilities occur, our image becomes challenged, at least in areas and ways that work for us. We become in tune with the plan that our life and our place are in the universe. And there is a plan in place for us. We shall see that. We shall know that. The universe will open up and make a special place for us with all that we need provided. We'll be good. Understand that it is good now. Learning to own our power will come if we're open to it. No need to stop at powerlessness and helplessness. That is a temporary place where we reevaluate where we have been, trying to have power when we have none. Once we surrender, it's time to become empowered. Let the power come naturally. It is there, it is ours. Today I'll be open to understanding what it means to own my own power. I will accept powerlessness where I have no power. I will also accept the power that is mine to receive. I kind of like that because it's connected to the third step. And it also kind of brings us into what I want to talk about today, which is fundamentally the first part of the iceberg theory. I'm going to talk a lot about the illusion of control. You'll notice in the core of the iceberg, if you go to the website and you download the PDF, which is on the website under Vince's Corner, and it's under other resources, you'll notice that the photograph, basically the center is a heart, but it's kind of a jagged heart. In the center of the heart is the word self-hatred. Another word for self-hatred is shame. So many of us over the course of our journey in life have had no real sense of ourself as a person, and myself included. So many times in the course of this recovery process, people have talked to me about spirituality. I never truly understood it. Because again, even though I was a clergyman, I was a priest, I never truly understood the real meaning of the word spiritual and spirituality. Even though on many, many occasions, people were telling me that I was spiritually dead. And my life was centralized around what I'm going to talk about today, the illusion of control, and also the illusion of fear. And both those things are connected with a sense of dishonesty. So those things are the core, the center of the circle. From that, other things flow and are connected. And so when I talk about the illusion of control, try to realize something. When in my series of lectures on codependency, I said that the core root of all addiction is codependency. And by that I mean the core root of all addiction is the illusion of control and the illusion of fear. When you have no sense of yourself at all, you have a sense of putting yourself down, looking at yourself negatively. And what we do is we try somehow to survive and get through life. We do that externally. We worry about how things look on the outside. At the same time, we function on the outside. At the same time, we avoid having to go to the inside and to look at myself within, to go to the core of making peace with me and settlement with me. And so as a result, then, some of the behaviors that are there, even though I might be telling people that I'm okay, that I'm fine. Remember my definition of fine? Frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Congratulations, you're fine. And so many times I use that word to avoid and to keep people at a distance. See, when you're frozen on the inside, then these certain things are coming up inside of you. You don't know how to deal with them. So the best way to deal with them is to avoid them. For example, so many times when I'm caught in that, I almost become a little bit narcissistic, kind of self-centered. And basically, I want me to be able to control everything, be in charge of everything, run everything. And as a result, then I have a tendency to constantly push people away from me. I don't need help. And as a result, then basically, I'm always feeling like I've got to constantly be on this wheel of being in constant control all the time. And one of the things I find out so powerfully is so many of us have migrated towards addiction so that we can actually shut down all those feelings and things that go on inside of us. And many of us literally use our addictions as ways to self-medicate, as ways to avoid, as ways to isolate. Because we're scared to death to look within, to look at the core. I've seen people do this, so many times. I want to make sure everything looks good on the outside. I remember working in a drug rehab at Narco in Atlantic City way back when I was a priest. And we had guys that came in that were a total disaster, coming off the streets, they had nothing. But then what they would do once they got inside the rehab, and they got some decent clothes and stuff to that effect, all of a sudden, they had their act all together. All of a sudden, everything was working. And then we give them a weekend pass. They would go out and make sure they looked beautiful, all dressed up, everything, all image. It was the outside. If I can just let people see that my outside is okay. So back then, people would buy a car, get it repossessed in 3 weeks. But for 3 weeks, I can ride around and look like I'm somebody. And that's where all that concept of, I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to others. Now, I have a name for that. I do it because I have no sense of myself. So you got to portray to others that I do have my act all together. I feel like I'm in control that way. One of the scariest feelings on the face of this earth is to lose control, especially if you don't have a real good sense of yourself as a person. So as a result, then we end up making stories up, fabricating stuff. And usually when people fabricate and make stories up, it's because there's something very powerful going on the inside. They don't see themselves in a positive way. And as a result, they have to create this outside image. I know a good example of this, a school teacher told me about this one time. I want to share it with you. She was teaching the 3rd grade, and she said to a little girl in the classroom, she said to her one day, she said, I have to ask you a question. How come mommy and daddy never come to the teachers' conferences or the PTA meeting? The little girl, without batting an eyelash, said to her, my dad is a Secret Service agent. He's not allowed to be seen in public. What is she really saying? We found out later her daddy was an alcoholic. Her daddy was a total disaster, a total mess. He literally ripped the house apart. She was scared to bring anybody home. What she did was, for survival purposes, she created a fantasy daddy. Then she really believed that he really existed. I don't want to deal with it, so I go into the world of make-believe. And now and on, they talk a lot about the elephant in the living room. And so many times, situations are right there in front of us because I don't want to deal with them. I can control them by creating almost a fantasy or a fictitious thing and make something up. And here's the bottom line is, they call it lying on the diagram. But very many times, it's not really lying. It's really survival. It's a way I can survive and get through life. Why? Because inside, I feel shame, I feel embarrassment, I have no sense of who I am. And so the secret is, keep everybody away from me. When I was in the priesthood, I can relate to this in so many ways. I thank God for finding this stuff when I finally got into recovery. In the priesthood, even though people kept telling me this, and even had the nervous breakdown and the doctor told me I was spiritually dead, I didn't know what he was talking about. Now I do. I really was, for the first 44 to 45 years of my life, spiritually dead on the inside. Although I function extremely well externally, I was able to get a lot of things done. I ran programs. I did all kinds of good stuff for people. I was involved in teaching, doing all more than me. You ever read the book I wrote about myself, man? I can't believe half the things I actually did back then. I look back on it today and I realize the fact I was like a runaway train out of control. But now I do understand why. As long as I could stay busy, I could stay active, I could stay moving, I could stay doing things, I never had to stand still and look at me. Anything to avoid looking at me. Also, major fears of my sexuality. So when I was heavy, literally, it was a protection. It's like a wall around you. Nobody's going to get too close to you. And if they do, I'm going to push them away. I'll find a way. I'll turn the subject to them, not to me. And so it's scary because, again, so many people, myself included, we do this to survive and get through life. And as a result, then we do burn out. But I've learned over and over again that we get caught up in this, and as a result, we get very rigid, very uptight. It's got to be my way or the highway. All these things are going on inside of us because I got to maintain that control. Because if I lose it, what am I going to do? How will I survive? I don't know who I am. I'm empty on the inside. So as a result, then I have to create this image. Know what's so scary about trying to live an image? Then everybody expects you to be that image forever and ever and ever. And the scary thing is, when you start to make changes, you're going to look at yourself, people get upset at you. Why? Because you've always been what they wanted you to be. And as a result, then you lived in that constant little image. It wasn't you. Now, I find it really interesting when I look at programs such as Al-Anon, AA, NA, all of our 12-step programs. I look at the 12 steps. And the early founders understood this because they understood addiction. So many of us, when we got caught up in our addictive behavior patterns, they're all about control. Even addicts who are totally out of control try to portray that they're in control. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? And yet it's true. So many times. Not me. I'm fine. I'm great. I'm wonderful. You're the one who's got the problem. You're the one that always wants to put me away. You're the one that always does this. You're the one that does that. I've got my act all together. In reality, it's falling apart. A good example of this is the addiction of gambling. So many times you confront a gambler, you say things to them like, you're going to lose your house, you're losing your family, everything's falling apart, and a gambler with a straight face will look at you and say, not a problem. I'll go to the track tomorrow and get it all straightened out. Here's the scary part. We use a term called disassociation as a technical term. What it means is when my defense mechanisms go up and I feel like I'm losing control, I have to create control. Here's that illusion again. It's not real, it's an illusion. Because really, when he goes to the track tomorrow, he's probably going to make himself even worse than he is today. But the bottom line is, in his mind, because the shame, the self-hatred, all the guilt and stuff comes into that wells up inside of you, it's much easier to say, I'll take care of it. It's not really a problem. I'll straighten it all out tomorrow. It's that avoidance, that running away. We see it in relationships a lot of times. Relationship I see this so many times. I work with abused women or abused individuals in relationships where they stayed in the relationship forever and ever because they were told, this time it's going to be better. This time I can control. Because this time he's going to listen to me. And of course it doesn't work. So that illusion is what I'm talking about, because it's that illusion that I as a person can handle. I as a person can control everything in my life. Therefore, I don't need any help. I can be a one-man person or a one-person show and get everything done just the way I can do it. Excuse me, I'm just coming off a coldness, and I got to keep things moist. But the bottom line is I'm realizing over and over again, this concept goes in a lot of different directions. It goes into the blame game. It goes into me feeling worthless about myself. Now, how can you feel worthless and still feel like you're somebody? It's almost like that is an illusion. Here's how I really feel. But I got to make you believe I feel something differently. And so when I live that way and function that way, and whenever you try to function like you're in control when you're not in control, when you think you're in control when you're powerless. And that's why the steps are so important, because the early founders try to teach us something. And it's hard for us to understand until we start to do it. Excuse me. The first 12 steps are for us to work on our first 11 steps are for us to work on ourselves. You notice how they put that together? They are for us to work on us. Only after having done your work can you carry a message to somebody else. I made the big mistake in my life for a lot of years to be a very insane, crazy two-stepper. Now, many of you in recovery know what a two-stepper is. I did the first step. I put the alcohol down, no big deal. And then I went right to the 12th step. I busied myself saving everybody because I was too scared to look at Vince, to deal with Vince. I went right into that illusion of control. If I can fix everybody, take care of everybody, make everybody crazy, then I can be top dog, number one. And it's crazy how we do this to ourselves. I didn't realize I was killing myself. I didn't realize I was driving myself down. And yet, I was doing it. So the illusion of control as part of this iceberg is scary, because even with addiction so many times, if I don't want to look at me, what do? I go from one addiction to another addiction to another addiction. I know now my core addiction is my workaholism, my compulsive behavior patterns, and not knowing how to stand still, how to relax and take it easy. As a result, then I went from alcohol to my eating disorder, from my eating disorder to my work, all kinds of things that I did. I found out that I could be in control of everything. Even when I started Starting Point, it was a one-man show. So basically, delegating, somebody told me I should be delegating. They became the enemy. I'm not delegating anything. I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that knows where things are. I'm the only one that can get it done. I'm this. That's actually narcissistic behavior. And yet many times we get into that because deep down inside, we really are not clear on who we are. And the scariest thing in the world is to go back to that serenity prayer. They tell us in the serenity prayer, courage to change the things you can, to look within your own self, to take care of you, to work on you, to let go. That's why I said when I did that reading this morning, it fit right into our pattern of today, that illusion of control. What's about that third step? To let go, let God, relax, take it easy, let things flow, let them go where they're supposed to go. Because I've learned over the years, one thing that got me into a lot of trouble as part of my illusion of control was worrying all the time. Did I do it right? Did I do it perfectly? Did I do this? Did I do that? All these things come into play. Because it was always the bottom line is, I don't want people to really get to know who I really am, because I don't know who I am. But was I thinking that way? No. I thought I was a cat's meow. I had it all together. And as a result, then, it's almost like I enjoyed being up on a pedestal because basically everybody else was down there. And I didn't have to go down there. And they didn't want to come up here. So I was safe. I was in my own little world, my cocoon. And that's why every time somebody tried to confront me or tried to tell me something, I used to get mad and get angry. I went to my first Al-Anon meeting way back in 1969, and the people at Al-Anon told me to work on me. I got angry at them because I did not need any work at all. I had my entire act together. See, I needed to come here so you could tell me how to fix these other people. The priest I was living with, he's the problem, not me. Everything else was a problem, not me. And so as a result then, when I might break down, the exact same thing. I was driving myself into the ground. It took me in the rooms of recovery for a period of from 69 to 1987 to finally work the program. Is that amazing? We talk about Italian stubbornness. It's totally ridiculous. I look back on it today, but you know why? I wasn't ready. I was too scared. I was afraid. I was afraid to break the illusion. Because that illusion, for so many of us, is our survival place, the way in which we get through things. It's my identity. It's who I am. You want to take that away from me and actually have me become vulnerable and begin to feel? And that's why when people put down their addiction, if they truly do work on themselves, change takes place. But if they don't work on themselves, then they're either going to relapse or migrate to another addiction, fill the void with something somewhere to give me some sort of an identity, to make sure I look to the outside. You know, if I only get this done, I'll look okay. If I get this treatment done, that treatment done, no, stop. Let's go to the inside. Look at the inside. The beauty inside of us. That's where peace, serenity, calmness, gentleness are, not outside. Yes, you'll get criticized. Change is part of the journey of life. Loretta and I were talking about this today. A lot of people even get upset at us here at Starting Point because we've made changes and we're moving into kind of a new direction with the program. And people kept saying to me, well, why don't we go back the way it was before? This way, that way, the other way. And one of my responses, I told Loretta I'm going to give them from now on, yeah, let's go back the way it was before. We'll make the whole place into a halfway house for street people and a soup kitchen, which it was in the beginning, okay? That'll go over real big, I say, and I don't think the counselors will be needed anymore. So the concept is, you can't go back. You got to move forward, and change is part of life. But like any of us in recovery, we know that. We have a hard time with change. We don't want that illusion broken. We don't want the things we do changed because they're breaking our illusion of being in control, of doing it my way. I have to make adjustments. One of the hardest things to do in life is adjusting new things, new behaviors. I mean, good God, nature tries to teach this to us over and over and over again. Not just in the weather, but in our bodies. And all of a sudden we have aches and pains. All of a sudden we can't do some of the things we did before. I had a great discussion this morning with a couple of guys at the gym. I still have my license as a registered basketball official. And they said, well, why don't you make some extra money and ref some games? I says, are you out of your mind? Can you see me running up a damn court with 16-year-old gazelles? You got to be out of your mind. You know, they blow me right off the court. Yeah, I did it. I ref games. I did all kinds of things back when I was younger. I even ref the game at the Palestra one time. I won claim to fame. But guess what? I ain't going there no more. It's reality. I think the hardest thing of all to break this illusion of control is to realize the fact that so many times in life, we have a tendency to become a little bit dishonest and try to be something we're not. And as soon as you do that, you get in trouble. Isn't that amazing? I love the way nature works. You know, I always tell you the story, and I love this story. And people try to teach you, but you don't want to hear it. I joined the gym, and of course, when you join the gym, they give you a trainer, right? And they gave me this young girl. She's probably about 22, 23 years old, and I was about, I don't know, 66, 67. I'm looking at her and saying, "Oh my God, what's she going to tell me? I've got much more experience than her." And she took me around the gym. She said to me, "Now, whatever you do, Vince, see those guys over there bench pressing 150, 200 pounds? Don't do that. Stay away from those guys." Then she said to me, which was so embarrassing, she said, "Pick up 5-pound weights." 5 pounds. I said to her, 5 pounds? I can pick up more than that. No, pick up 5-pound weights. I said, "Now I want you to do 50 reps with 5-pound weights." When I got to about 25 or 30, I wanted to check to see if my arms were still there. She said, "I'm trying to teach you something. You're older." I said, "Thank you very much. You're older. As you get older, less weights, more reps, more stretching, more flexibility, more of this, more of that." And you know what? What a shot to the ego she gave me. It's totally amazing. And yet, you know what? That 22-year-old had more wisdom than I had. Because I was stuck in the illusion of control. The illusion of control was, I could bench press with those guys, no problems at all. Yeah. That's how we think up here. Why do you think we have things like midlife crisis? You try to go back and be 20 again. Try to go back and be 30 again. Try to go back and think we can do this and think we can do that. And we cause all kinds of problems and chaos and confusion. And then we have to come back to the reality of what is and work on ourselves in the reality of where we are. And that's why to have to break this and melt this iceberg, you have to be able to somehow face these things going on inside of us. And I'll talk a lot more about that when I get to the recovery process. I just wanted to bring out that illusion of control today because it's so powerful and it's so scary. And so many of us have lived in that illusion for a long period of time. Parents do it with their kids a lot of times. Do you really want to have to discipline your kids, give them structure, order, and direction? And I always give you the example, I don't mind saying it. When I first got married, after I left the priesthood, I'm Italian, as most of you know. My wife is German, and I inherited 3 teenage girls when I got married. And one of the things the therapist taught us and taught me was, Vince, you got to learn how to step back. You're a step parent. Step back. Because my philosophy was, I wanted to run the roost. And my wife and I worked out a good system. See, my wife had this wonderful way of telling the kids, no. That was a foreign word to me when I was growing up. No. And so the concept is, she used to say, let me think about it. Then she'd meet with me, we talk about it, and she went back and did the direct parenting. I did indirect parenting. And it worked. What really got me, though, when each kid turned 16, they had to go to work part-time and pay for half their clothes. When they turned 17, they could use our car if they pay for the gas and for the insurance. When they turned 18, she charged them rent to live in our house. My middle stepdaughter got screamed at us, yelled at us. I got to pay rent to live in my own house? And my wife said, I don't see your name on the mortgage papers. This isn't your house. This house belongs to me and Vince. You're a guest in this house. You're 18 years old, you're responsible, you pay. You can't afford to pay, then you do chores and you earn the money to give back to us. But she was tough. And the girls didn't like it. Of course they didn't. And yet today, they're all doing well. They're all doing good. And one of the things I even laugh about it because I'm one of the few fathers who hasn't paid for any of their girls' weddings. They pay for their own. They worked out their own things, their own directions, because they learned responsibility. I'm grateful for that. I really am. Because, I'm Italian. I want to buy everything for them, do everything for them, get them a car, go here, do this, do that. Here's that control nonsense again. You have to learn that the illusion of control doesn't work. Just like so many parents try to control their kids, try to make them into what they want them to be. I want my son to be this, I want my son to be that. No, they got to find their own journey. Got to make their own mistakes. Got to go through their own responsibility. Love is the gift of allowing people their mistakes and their growth. It's not easy. Life and growth is never going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a struggle. And so when we talk about the illusion of control, and I'll connect that to the illusion of fear, so many of us have lived in this damn iceberg for so long that it's time to melt the iceberg. It's time to go within. And age does not make a difference. It's a good friend of mine in AA, and I love her. In fact, I saw her at the club a few weeks ago when I was there. She came into the program at age 63. She went through 4 marriages, all kinds of insanity and craziness. Finally got into recovery at age 63. And now she's 83. And she's 20 years in recovery now. Her life has changed dramatically. She spent 63 years avoiding living in that illusion, living in that craziness. Because she wasn't ready to have to ask those powerful questions. Help me. She wasn't ready to let go. She wasn't ready to realize we don't have answers. And that's why that third step is so important, to let go and let God, to be open to new things and new directions. That's why change and development of change is powerful and beautiful. Because we're all in transition, we're all changing. We go through stages of life. The Indians put it beautifully. We have the baby, we have the young adult, we have the middle age, and then we have old age, and then we return to the ground and start the process. It's ongoing. It's a constant process. It's one of my favorite movies is The Lion King, where you have, Simba get back into the circle of life. Circle of life has a beginning, it has endings. It's a process going on. We pass it on. Things begin to move on. Recovery is the exact same way. We move things on, we pass it on to somebody else, and the process goes on. It's how life is supposed to work. But see, if I have to live the life in fear and control and anxiety, it's not going to work. I don't know about you, but I'm just trying to share this with you today because I truly believe when you release control, you gain control. That sounds strange, doesn't it? But the reading said that today. You become empowered when you let go of control. You go with the flow. You go with the spirit and the energy of the higher power. Because I truly believe if you're open to the process of life, life will take you exactly where it's supposed to go. And there's no absolutes, I'm sorry. You just got to go with it. And you'll find what you're supposed to find. And so I share this with you as I pray today. Ask God to guide us, be with us, and be part of our process to help us through this. But the biggest thing in life is to let go of that illusion so I don't go back into all my addictive behaviors and patterns because I'm scared to look at me. Because let me tell you a secret. You are the greatest gift on the face of this earth. Your story is the greatest story on the face of this earth because it's yours. It belongs only to you. If you have the strength as you work on yourself and grow to share your story with others, you'll get stronger as a person yourself. You'll pass the message on to somebody else. So it's time to pass it on, that's all. The elders passed it on to me. My turn. Now it's my turn to pass it on to other people. And if we keep passing it on, it just keeps moving. That's how life is. Isn't it wonderful? So let us pray. God, we come before you as a family today. We ask the God of our understanding, our higher power, our higher presence, whatever we choose to call that, to be our strength, our guidance, and our direction, to give us the courage and the strength to begin to look within, look at the real gift of ourselves, look at our strength, look at our beauty. Teach us to forgive, to heal, to make settlement within our own selves, so we have the energy and the gift to share these things with others. So I truly, truly believe, and God tries to teach us every day, that the spirit that we have within is the spirit we express on the outside. So teach me, God, not to look at the outside, but look at the inside, to see the beauty in every human being I meet, to realize the fact that so many times, even people that hurt me or hurt us, do it simply because they're scared themselves. So forgiveness, healing, moving on, learning, growing, discovering new things is part of our journey. We can't do it without you. So please be our guide, be our strength, work us along the way. We pray every day to be open to your guidance and your direction. We pray and we ask this in your name. Amen.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.